everyone. In this task, we are going to learn about Boto3 Python module. The topics which we will be covering are introduction, features, advantages, applications, and examples. So let's start with it. Firstly, introduction to Boto3 Python module. Boto3. What is Boto3? Boto3 is the Amazon Web Services software development kit for Python. Basically, Boto3 provides a set of tools and functions that enables developers to communicate with AWS services using Python. Which services? Services, for example, like Amazon S3 and Amazon EC2, RDS, DynamoDB, etc. So it's like a bridge that connects Python code to the powerful capabilities of AWS, making it accessible for developers to build Python applications and automate tasks in the cloud. So it is an easy to use interface for interacting with various AWS services using Python. So in this Boto3, we can programmatically create, configure, and manage AWS services without directly interacting with the Amazon Web Services Management Console, so for which Boto3 has it for us. Now, here is the simple example in which it shows how Boto3 is interacting with Amazon Web Service S3, which is a popular storage device. The first line which says import Boto3. The first line import Boto3 is always used whenever a program is started. The first line indicates that Boto3 library, which is the Amazon Web Service, it imports Boto3 library, which is the Amazon Web Service software development kit for Python. So if we want to create an S3 client, an S3 instance is created with the help of Boto3.client, and we can create an S3 client. Whether we want to list all buckets with the help of response instance, S3 list buckets is created. Now the flowchart shows how Boto3 library takes the Python applications, and with the help of Python applications, how it works on Amazon Web Services like S3, EC2, DynamoDB, etc. Now, moving on to further, we will be seeing its features. Features of Boto3 Python module. Features of Boto3 Python module. The very first says that the comprehensive AWS service support, which means that think of Boto3 as a versatile toolbox for Python developers who want to work with Amazon Cloud Services. This toolbox helps you do a lot of different things with various Amazon Web Services using Python code. So if you want to explain it in a more simpler way, imagine AWS services like tools in a workshop, and where Boto3 is like a magic tool that can connect to and use almost any tool in the workshop. And this was about the first feature. Let's talk about the second feature, which is simple and consistent interface. Consistent. Boto3 provides a consistent means in a very easy way interference with Amazon Web Services with the help of Pythonic interference, which makes it very intuitive for developers to work with it. So third one is the client and resource interface. Client and resource interface. So whether we want to talk directly to Amazon Web Services with precise commands, for that we use client interface, or work with Amazon resources in a more Python friendly way, for which Boto3 has covered. For that we have resource interfaces. Let's move on to the next features of it. Cross-account resource access. We can take it in a more simpler way. So suppose, imagine you have two separate Amazon accounts. Each account has its own set of resources, like for storage, databases, or servers. Sometimes you might want to allow one account to access or manage resources in another account. So for this, way for this task, cross-account resource access has in us for it. The next feature is multi-part uploads for large objects. When working with services like Amazon S3, Boto3 supports multi-part uploads, which is beneficial for efficiently uploading large objects. Asynchronous operations. For asynchronous operations, let's take an example. When you make a call to an AWS service using Boto3, so there might be a situation where you may get some delay to complete it. So for this, imagine you are asking AWS to perform a task and you don't want your program to sit and wait until it's done. Instead, you'd like your program to continue doing the thing while the AWS works on the task in the background. So for which this is called as the asynchronous operations. Now let's move on to the advantages of Boto3 module. The very first advantage is Pythonic and consistent interface. Now, Pythonic and consistent interface, let's break it into two different sections and then learn about it. Pythonic means it follows the style and principles of the Python programming language. So a Pythonic interface is designed in such a way that it feels natural and convenient for the developer's use. And hence it makes easy for use also. Consistent interface. Consistency means growing in a natural, rapid growth. So consistency makes it easier for developer because they don't have to learn a bunch of different ways of doing similar things. Okay. So this was about the Pythonic and consistent interface. So the methods and conventions used in Boto3 will align with the Python programming practices. Now let's move on to second advantage, that is automatic pagination handling. To understand automatic pagination handling, let's take an example. Imagine you have a huge book, but you can only read a few pages at a time. So the help of automatic pagination is like having a helper who turns the pages for you. Okay, and brings you the right set of pages without you having to worry about it. So likewise, so what is the task of Boto3? So the Boto3 helps us. Boto3 is like your helpful assistant. It knows, Boto3 knows that the book is big, so it automatically turns the pages for you. So you don't have to worry about asking for the next set of pages, for which Boto3 takes care of it. Let's know about the third advantage, active community and documentation. Active community. Active community means, think of Boto3 as like a bustling city. So an active community is like having a lot of friendly neighbors who are always ready to help and share what they know. So Boto3 has a vibrant and active community, making it easy to find help, share knowledge, and contribute to the development of the library. Now, what does documentation means? The official documentation. So imagine Boto3 is like a complex board game and the documentation is your rule book. The rule book is there to guide you. Likewise, means the Boto3 is there to guide us and explain how things work and help you play the game successfully. So the official documentation is extensive, providing clear examples and guidance for each supported service. Now, let's talk about the last advantage, that is the advantage of session management. Session management means Boto3 supports the concepts of sessions, allowing developers to manage multiple set of AWS credentials and configurations. This is particularly useful in scenarios where an application needs to interact with AWS accounts or regions. which means imagine you have multiple keys to open different doors. Session management with Boto3 is like having a key holder that helps to us organize the right key for the door. So if we want to get to know in Boto3 terms, it is like you have different credentials for different AWS accounts or regions. So the task of Boto3 is to help us create a session, a credential holder that organizes and manages these credentials. When we want to interact with AWS or the right set of credentials from the session, when we want to use the right set of credentials for the session. So it's a way to keep it's simple. In simple terms, is like it's a way to keep things organized and efficient, especially when our application needs to work with various Amazon Web Services accounts or regions for which Boto3 has done for it. So these were the 4 advantages of Boto3. Now let's move on to its applications. The very first application is Amazon Web Resource Provisioning. Boto3 allows you to create and manage Amazon Web Resources programmatically. This includes creating EC2 instances, S3 buckets, RDS databases, and more. What is S3? How does S3 help us? S3 is like it helps us store and retrieve files in the cloud. With Boto3, we can use Python to manage these files. Now, let's move on to the code example. Code example, it says the very first line, import Boto3. Like previously, as I said, this line, import Boto3, is the Boto3 library, which is the official Amazon Web Services SDK for Python. Now, EC2 instance. EC2, a connection to the Amazon EC2 service is established using the Boto3.service, and hence EC2 is equal to Boto3.resource instances create. Instance is equal to EC2 create instances. The third line, which is EC2 argument, specifies that we want to work with the EC2 instances, we want to create the EC2 instances, for which this line is useful. Image ID. What does image ID do? Image ID specifies that the Amazon machine image, AMI, that is the Amazon machine image, to be used for the instance. So in this code example, the AMI, that is Amazon machine image, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is used. What is min count? Min count specifies minimum number of instances to launch. So in this code, we have taken as 1. What is max count? Max count is the maximum number of specifications for the instances. So in this code, we have taken as 1. Instant type. Instant type is which specifies the type of instance to launch. As the name itself says, instant type, which is the type of the instances used for the launch. So in this case, T2 micro is used. So, and here we come to an end to our code, which means that our code is completed. And after executing this code, we will be getting our EC2 instance resource. Let's move on to the second application. Second application says about the S3 bucket operation. Boto3 provides easy-to-use functions for managing Amazon S3 buckets. Like you can create, delete, or upload or download and list objects in S3 buckets. S3 bucket is one of the most famous services in the Amazon. So let's move on to the code. The code says, if we want to create an S3 bucket resource, the creation of the S3 bucket resource is done as shown. Whether we want to upload a file, uploading is also as shown, like bucket.upload. And whether we want to download a file, we have been, the code is also shown to it in a manner. Now, let's move on to the third application. The third application says AWS Lambda Function Invocation. Boto3 is used to invoke AWS Lambda functions and pass parameters to them. Now, what is Lambda? Lambda allows us to run code without managing servers. Boto3 helps you deploy and manage these serverless functions. Boto3 helps us to deploy and manage these serverless functions. Let's move on to the code example. The first line, as I have said, that is Boto3 library is the official Amazon Web Services software development kit for Python. The second, here we have to create an instance. So an instance of the Lambda client is created using the Boto3.client method. As you can see, Lambda client is created with the help of Boto3 client. So in this code, invoke method is used. Invoke method is used as an AWS Lambda function. Now, so in this code, the name given to the function is the my Lambda function, and with the help of invoke method of the Lambda, with the help of invoke method, we will be executing the program of the Lambda client. So function name, which specifies the names of the function, as I have said in this code, our name to function given is my Lambda function. Invocation type is which specifies the invocation type, means the Lambda function will be invoked synchronously and the response will be returned, for which we have to enter some values like key 1, value 1, key 2, value 2. That is the payload parameter is used for it. And that comes to an end to our invoke method. So after this code is executed, the response variable will contain information about the invocation, such as the status code, function error, and the response payload. Let's move on to the next application. AWS DynamoDB operations. DynamoDB, which is the NoSQL database in the cloud. Boto3 allows you to interact with and manage this database using Python. With the help of Boto3 and using Python applications, we can even perform DynamoDB, which is the AWS service operations. Example code to which is shown below, and Dynamo instance, Dynamo resource is created with the help of Boto3.resource. So if we want to, it is a NoSQL database. So if we want to put any item in a table, the code to it which is shown. If we want to get an item from the table, we can also do those operations with the help of DynamoDB and with the help of Boto3 library. Now, let's move on to the next application. This is the last application, AWS CloudWatch metrics and logs. Now, what does it say? What is AWS CloudWatch? AWS CloudWatch is nothing but a monitoring service that allows you to collect and treat matrices, collect and monitor log files and set alarms. Means it can track matrices, it can also collect and monitor log files and set alarms. As you can see, Boto3 enables us to retrieve and analyze AWS CloudWatch matrices and logs. It will collect and monitor. Example code to which is given. So the first line, as I've already mentioned, as I've already said in the previous slides, what does the first line do? Now let's move on to the code explanation. An instance of the CloudWatch client is created. So whenever we have to create an instance, we use the Boto3.client method. The CloudWatch object will be used to interact with Amazon Web Services CloudWatch matrices. So the object which will be created, we will be interacting with the Amazon Web Services CloudWatch matrices. The next line, that is, so this code, what does this code do? This code makes use of get matrices, metric in statistics method to retrieve metric statistics for the specified CloudWatch matrix. Now, namespace. As the name says, namespace specifies the name of the namespace of the metric. Metric name. It specifies the name of the metric, So in this case, the namespace used is Amazon Web Services or EC2 instance, and the metric name used is CPU utilization, start time and end time. Start time and end time defines the time edge for which you want to retrieve the metric statistics. So start time is 2023 1/1 and the end time is 2023 1/02. So period. Period specifies the granularity in seconds of the return data points. So the number which shows 3600, it is in seconds. Okay, and what does statistics means? Statistics is, it specifies the matrix statistics to retrieve. Here it's set to average, meaning the average value of the matrix will be calculated. Now the dimensions which specifies the filter in the metric data, if you want to do any filtration work, so for which dimensions are needed. So the name is here, in this case, name is instance ID and value is I is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here comes to an end to our code. After running this code, we can analyze the response to access the metric data for further processing or visualization. So here is an end to our applications of Boto3 module.